What's going on, everyone? So the Dallas Mavericks recently signed Derrick Jones Jr., and I actually think that that's a really solid pickup for them. A hyper-athletic, defensive-minded type player. That's what they really need, especially next to Luka and Kyrie. A guy that is a high flyer, great athleticism. He's also got good size, 6'6", with like a 7-foot wingspan. I do think that he's a solid acquisition for Dallas. But this is a Laker channel, so why am I talking about Derrick Jones Jr. and the Dallas Mavericks? Because the signing of Derrick Jones Jr. basically alludes to Dallas moving off of Christian Wood specifically, and also adds the potential for another player that the Lakers very likely are going to want to require. We'll touch on that here in a second. Now, as far as Christian Wood goes, and the reason that this is a good sign that Dallas is officially moved on from Christian Wood is Dallas, by all intents and purposes, this isn't like crazy news. Like, oh, Dallas was ready to move on regardless. But there were all the reports that Dallas would love to look for a sign and trade, right? They'd love to acquire a piece or something in return rather than just letting him go for nothing. Now, I didn't think that that was going to happen. Most people didn't think that that was going to happen, right? That most teams looked at it as like, nobody's going to trade for Christian Wood. No one even really is willing to sign Christian Wood, it looks like. Let alone are they going to go and make a trade for him. But there is always that possibility, right? Maybe when all the dust settles, Dame gets traded and, let's say Harden goes somewhere. Maybe there is a team that's like, all right, we could use Christian Wood and his firepower. And so it made sense for Dallas to kind of wait it out and see what's the end result. But the fact that they signed Derrick Jones Jr. basically eliminates any potential for them to now take Christian Wood and do a one-for-one swap, right? They would have to take Christian Wood and another player and go and do that because now Dallas is at the point where they're going to have to waive a player, maybe even two, depending on how this goes. Now, they'll go in very likely with most of the guys, if not all the guys that they currently have, and go into training camp. But they now have a very stacked roster, right? They have well over 15 guys, and they need to kind of figure out how are they going to approach this, which guys do they want, how do they want these guys. And there have been reports and talks of them waiving JaVale McGee, who that's the other guy that the Lakers could very well acquire, right? Now, Dallas, if they look at it and go, okay, we have Derek Lively, who we really want to take and step up into a more prominent role. McGee was kind of an odd man out for them, even though Jason Kidd had really high hopes, right? Like that was the whole reason Christian Wood was coming off the bench because they were going to start JaVale McGee. And it didn't really seem to work out for Dallas and McGee, right? And now they have, Derek Lively, they got Rashard Holmes, they got Dwight Powell still, right? They have several guys now that they could use and use the minutes that JaVale McGee would get to now go and put towards the young guys and kind of get them growing, get them developed, and allow them to kind of be put in positions to have success with this Dallas Mavericks team. So JaVale McGee, who has already been heavily rumored and to end up being a buyout candidate or being waived by the Dallas Mavericks, I can see more likely now McGee is kind of becomes an odd man out. Because, like I said, by the time everything's done with training camp, Dallas is probably going to have to waive a guy or two. And if that becomes the case, you're not going to want to waive any of your young guys. You're not going to want to waive any of your core guys. And you look at their core guys, right? You got Luka, Kyrie, obviously. Hardy, I think, has a big role this year. Lively, Tim Hardaway Jr., got Josh Green, Rashard Holmes, Dwight Powell. That's already 8 guys. And that's not counting Seth Curry, who they picked up, Grant Williams, right? Like, so there's basically your 10-man rotation right there. So JaVale McGee very likely is the odd man out that they end up waiving. And the Lakers could really use a center, right? Even if they get Christian Wood, they could still use another center. And JaVale McGee is a guy that has had success with the Lakers, that won a championship with the Lakers, that understands kind of his role and would be willing to come in and play that part. They want to play Anthony Davis at the 4 spot more, right? So if that's the case, and let's say they do start Christian Wood and Anthony Davis, well, then you have Jackson Hayes, yes, but you could use another big man. Like Christian Wood, can he play center? Sure. But he's more of a power forward than he is a center, right? And he's best suited at the power forward position. And Christian Wood, you could play next to JaVale McGee. You could play next to Jackson Hayes. You could play next to Anthony Davis. And getting a guy in JaVale McGee who would be willing to buy in his role. Hey, tonight you're going to play 30 minutes. Cool, no problem, coach. Hey, tonight we're just going to have you play 10 minutes. Cool, no problem, coach. Hey, tonight you're going to be a DMP. No problem, coach. And you got to keep in mind, Anthony Davis, he's probably missing 20 to 30 games this year. So when he's out, you now are leaning super heavy into Christian Wood, who, again, is a better power forward than center. And then, on top of that, Jackson Hayes. It would be nice to have that big man that you could just put in spots and just have you play 10 minutes a game. He's a veteran guy that will play his role and make his fit. Not just that, but JaVale McGee has never been a guy that is playing 30 minutes a game anyway, right? Because he has, asthma and stuff like that. So he usually is on sort of a minute restriction. It's not like a hard minute restriction, but, he usually plays around 15 minutes a game. And I think that that's kind of all you'd be looking for if you're the Lakers, right? Just a guy that could come in and provide, 10 to 15 minutes on any given night. And I think that that's something that would be huge for them, right? And when you're talking about Dallas last year, again, this was a guy that was supposed to start for them. And he only started 7 games. He only played 42 total. And look, it wasn't all Dallas, right? But again, it's just, are they really going to keep him for what? Right? When they have several other options that are ahead of them that they're higher on, and they really want to get the minutes in the role. I think that it's very possible the Lakers could be looking at a Christian Wood and a JaVale McGee acquisition. And then there's your whole roster. Not just that, you're adding JaVale McGee to a non-guaranteed, right? Very likely. So it gives you some flexibility. At worst, it's a contract that now you can add to a trade, right? If the Lakers do indeed plan on trading D'Angelo Russell and you need to add an extra, $2.5 million or whatever, there's JaVale McGee, right? You could use that contract. But I think more so it's just, it gives the Lakers bodies and depth at the center position because now you have Anthony Davis. You now have Jackson Hayes. You now have Christian Wood if you need to go that route. And you have JaVale McGee, who, if you do have a Denver matchup, now you have 4 guys on top of guys like Rui who had some success where you can just throw these bodies at Jokic and really just kind of wear him down over the course of a series. I mean, that's how the Lakers were able to beat Denver in 2020, right? When they looked like they were primed and ready to win an NBA championship. Is the Lakers threw JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard, Anthony Davis, game in and game out, throwing just bodies at him, and Jokic is only one guy. So you constantly have fresh legs that you can throw at Jokic to just continue to just body him, and he's got to play his minutes and deal with just the bruises and bumps and all that stuff, right? Like, that is something that would be, I think, very valuable for the Lakers. Because, like, you look at the Lakers roster, they're stacked at the forward position. They got good guards. Like, you could say, like, they could use another shooting guard, but I don't think it's something that big of a need, right? Because, yeah, you have Austin Reeves, and then it's like, okay, well, who's the backup? Is it Max Christie? Do they go Cam Reddish? Do they shift, a Taurean Prince? Which all of those are fair options, but also you could go like Gabe Vincent because he's a guy that can shoot the ball. You could go and have D'Lo slide over at the 2 and play him. So it's not something that's like super dire and something that is an absolute necessity. The center position is the one that the Lakers need the most. And Christian Wood, you got to get, if you can get Christian Wood on a vet minimum, you have to do it, right? And you figure it out. 17-7 guy, a guy that is highly versatile. only question, the question with Christian Wood isn't talent. Question with Christian Wood is, can he kind of stow the nonsense and the character issues and really kind of be a guy for the Lakers in the sense of like, be a locker room guy, buy into the role, play whatever's needed, like all of those things. And Christian Wood could do that. Good luck beating this Lakers team. Because now you have another 17-7 guy that can play center or power forward on top of LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell. Like, start going down this list and it's like, come on. Like, right? And then if you could add a guy in JaVale McGee, that's huge. Guy that can block shots, that can rebound, that can defend, that can, play his role, that it would be willing to play his role and willing to buy, like, your roster's set, literally. So I love the idea, and my hope is that this happens. But anyway, as always, I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you think the Lakers land McGee if they end up waiving him? Do you think like, nah, get Wood, but leave McGee alone? Do you think the opposite? Go get McGee but leave Wood alone? How do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. Let me know down